Welcome back to another episode of Stories with Heath. This is a wonderful experience to get to share with you guys some of the stories that have mattered to me, some of the events that got me to where I am in life, and we want to thank you for sharing those with us, for sharing them with other people. It means a lot. It means a lot to me to know that these stories mean a lot to y'all. Today I'm going to share a story that has a little bit of a half theological hot take, half story with Heath. But I was called into the ministry by the Holy Spirit, and I told God at the time that He was laying the call on me, that I don't know that you can set conditions on that sort of thing, but I said, I will speak for you as long as you give me words to say. And I believe that pastors are God called, but I believe that not all pastors, again, this is what I believe, not what I know. I believe that while some get a verbal message from the Lord to deliver, others are called to teach in different ways. And I believe that there is room for both rigid exposition and spirit-led topical sermons to exist on the same plane of existence, and neither is necessarily right or wrong. It's just what God called for that guy to say, and what He's led him to preach and to do. I've done both, and I can tell you that God speaks through both. If the man is in fact called by the Spirit will take the word and make it alive. And so I told God I would speak for him as long as he gave me something to say. And early on, I would sit down with guys who had been to seminary, and they would say, hey, I've got my preaching calendar out for a year and a half. I know what I'm going to preach on this day and that day, and 2 years out I am. And I was doing sermons week to week, where when I finished on Sunday, I didn't know what I was preaching the next Sunday. Had no idea. And a lot of time spent in prayer and study, trying to grapple and grab that next sermon for next week. And it was hard, and it was stressful. And it was because I was working so hard to get the sermon, just the topic of the sermon, I often didn't have time to cut down the material in a way that would make for something that was easier on the tailbone, and I would preach a long time, a lot of times over an hour long at a session, and it was mostly because I just didn't have the time to whittle it down, because I spent so much time just trying to figure out what I was supposed to be talking about. It wasn't until I was probably in my fourth year of preaching that I realized that God was giving me series that I was trying to preach in one sitting. And if I would bust these up into instead of sections on a Roman numeral outline, A, B, C, D, E, take each letter and do each letter as a sermon, boy, I would have series, and I would know what I was going to preach. And when I began to start doing that, I was out a year and a half, 2 years on my calendar. I'm like, oh, I see how that works. And that was nice. And being out to be able to gather material, be able to kind of have a vision of how this series is going to play into the next one, and be able to know a little bit more about how to segue the topics and not be preaching the next series in this series, and that helped a lot. And I felt like I was getting better at the trade of speaking, better at the trade of teaching, and it was good. I enjoyed it. As a pastor, it became evident to me that early on I was a little bit of a sledgehammer. My role was to knock out of place things that should not be in place. I was for lack of a better word, a little bit of a demo man. And that was not a comfortable place to be in. It sure didn't make friends sometimes, and it sure had a lot of people angry with me from time to time. But that was a little bit of my role, was to shake things up a bit, to challenge the idols that existed in where they should not be, and to challenge the ideas that were common but antithetical to Christian life. And so that in your face style was abrasive, and it necessitated conflict. It was just part of it. And along about 2016, church had gone through a pretty rough split, and we were left trying to pick up the pieces of what was left. And I'm like, well, I can't break this thing any more than it's broken. So I began to look for where the next spot to go was, and I put out some feelers. I was contacted by several churches, interviewed with some, from one end of the country to the other. But in every situation, God closed those doors. And when it was all said and done, I got the instruction that I was supposed to stay and help rebuild. I'd never been part of rebuilding before. The process we took what was Northwest Baptist through was a process called revitalization, where we took and we planted a new church in the place of the old church. Ground up rebuild. When I got to Northwest Baptist, we were out of money. People were out for my head on a stick. It was bad. And I was praying on the campus one day, and I was asking God, why did you bring me all the way out here to the desert to kill me, when you could have just killed me in Sebastopol? I was doing fine getting myself killed all by myself. I don't know why we had to drag me way out here just to cause it all to come crashing down. I don't. Is it me? Am I the problem here? Is that what it is? And as I'm praying, the only time that I've ever had what could be described as a vision was that day. I'm walking on the campus and I'm praying and just kind of lamenting to the Lord about the situation and how broken that situation is. And I saw a picture. I was looking at the sanctuary building, and it was a new building. And it wasn't the same building that was there. It was a new building. And it was a more traditional building, a building that was not based on the building that's there that they have now is the early 80s, mid 80s kind of a lot of this kind of stuff out west, but modern-y kind of unique architecture. And so the building that I saw was white. It had a sloped roof. It had a steeple. Had big steps in the front that were facing away from the corner of Shannon and Curtis there, and so it was there was light emanating from this building, and it moved through the community, and as it touched each individual little trailer house, as it moved, it was coming out of every window, and as it moved through each building that it touched, it changed, and it didn't make it like a new building. It just washed off all of the dirt and the darkness that was there. It cleaned these buildings as this light moved through the neighborhood out from this church. And it was amazing to watch. And there was a line of people coming from all four directions, east, west, north, south, lined down the sidewalks, lined up, and there was a line coming out of the door around the building to the corner where everybody was trying to come into this new building, this building where the light was coming from, because the light was changing the community and they wanted to be changed too. And it was a picture, my understanding of it was a picture of what was to come with that church. And so even though I'll get to that in a minute. So I'm in the Spirit, I asked the Lord, I said, this is amazing. Let me see inside. And he said, no. And I said, but why? He said, because the people who are with you now won't be there then. And bam, it was gone. Now, things got dark at times, but I never doubted whether or not that church is going to make it. I still don't doubt whether or not it's going to make it, because I've seen its future. I believe that its future is still out there, that church is going to make a difference in the community. But by the time we got through the end of the revitalization process, there was only just a couple of families that were left of the original church members who were there when I came. And as we finished up the revitalization project, I began to realize that I had no more sermons to preach. I had been preaching through spiritual gifts for almost a year. What they are, how they work, why we need them, what happens if we don't use them. And at the end of that series, there wasn't another sermon left. And as the effects of COVID were taking over the world, and as the so many things in the world were changing because of that, I continued to get hammered with the idea, you need to get out of here. First, I thought it was just the flesh, because I'd tried to get out of here before, but that hadn't happened. I was making plans to stay in Arizona forever. But you need to get out of here. You need to get out of here. You need to get out of here. And at first I ignored it. It became more and more fervent, like a banging drum. I began to kind of sort of test the waters and began to realize this is the Lord leading me. And so I put it back to him. I came across a quote that says, sorry for the wind. I came across a note that said that procrastination was the arrogant assumption that God would give you tomorrow, or time tomorrow, an opportunity tomorrow, to do the thing he's asking you to do today. And I said, okay, all right, I won't procrastinate anymore. If this is what you want done, then you'll have to open the doors for it to happen. I put my house up on the market. I put it on the market, and within 72 hours, we had 2 people in a bidding war that paid way over asking price. And I resigned from the church. We put the business up for sale, and we left. I did not know that I would now be 4 years out of the pulpit at the time. But that's what happened that led us out of the ministry. I got one more of these in me on life after ministry. But this is a story of why I left. It's not because of some moral failure. It's not because I got ran off. I came close several times, but it's not because it's not even because I burned out. I got told that it was time to go. So that's what I did. So I hope you bear with us for part 3 of this, of the call to minister after ministry. But anyway, that is the end of this one today. I love y'all. Appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye.